We are seeing record declines. The number of new leases falling 23% over last year. Median rent with the largest decline in history.
There's just a lot of demand. People want to live they want to live in the suburbs now. They want to move out of cities. They want bigger houses.
Single-family rents were up 5.3% in April. That's the largest gain in nearly 15 years.
The choice between buying or renting a home has always been one of the biggest financial decisions that adults make. But the pandemic wreaked havoc on the housing market. Between home prices shooting up by more than 13% and rents by more than 10% in 2021, that decision is possibly harder than it's ever been.
Conventional real estate wisdom is that if you can afford to buy, you should. Buying is a great investment. But the inflated prices of the current moment may make some potential buyers think twice. And you may actually get more bang for your buck if you wait a little bit longer until prices mellow out and continue renting.
The pandemic triggered an unprecedented seller's market. In 2019, a home typically spent 30 days on the market. By May of 2021, that had dropped to 6 days. The surge in demand has caused inventory to drop by 30%, and cost of a typical home rose to about $290,000, up more than 13% in the same time period. However, more recent data is showing signs of a cooling housing market. In June, sales of new homes fell 6.6% below May, mainly due to supply shortages and affordability problems. Without a doubt, the pandemic turned the renting landscape upside down. In the 2 years prior to 2020, rents at the national level rose more than 2% annually, but in 2020, rents fell by 1.4%. The drop was much more dramatic in some of the country's most expensive cities, more than 15% in San Francisco and San Jose, and more than 7% in New York City and Washington, D.C. That's all changed in 2021. Apartment List Index shows that at the national level, overall rents are up 10.4% just in the first half of 2021. And in April, rents for single-family homes saw their biggest month-to-month increase in 15 years.
It can all feel like a bit of whiplash. It was only 6 months ago that landlords were offering crazy incentives, everything from slashing prices to offering 3 to 4 months of free rent in order to fill vacant units. But those days are over now. In April, a listing agent in New York told me that this summer was going to be wild, that increased demand from people going back to the city was going to make this one of the biggest rental summers ever.
Buying a home can mean you build equity and take advantage of tax incentives. On the flip side, buying is expensive. You need to handle a down payment, closing costs, maintenance, and potential condo fees. A study by LendingTree shows that housing costs related to renting were lower than those of homebuyers with a mortgage.
What we found was that across all of the nation's 50 largest metropolitan areas, renting is considerably cheaper than homeownership is until you've paid your mortgage off.
It costs more than $600 a month less to rent on average, according to the study. In cities like San Francisco and New York City, the difference is more than $1,000.
Here's an example that I think can better illustrate the numbers. Let's say Sarah is a young lawyer in Minneapolis making about $80,000 a year and thinking about buying her first home. She's saved almost $40,000 for her down payment, and as a result, her loan officer says she can afford to buy a $240,000 condo. She finds one she likes not far from Viking Stadium. It's nearly 700 square feet, but it's in a charming old building and includes a parking spot and a rooftop. She calculates that her mortgage payments will be close to $1,000, about $500 less than an almost identical rental unit in the building next door. But when you factor her property tax bill, insurance, and the almost $600 monthly HOA fee, Sarah would be paying about $1,900 a month for housing if she were to buy. That's nearly 30% more than what she'd pay if she rented next door. Not to mention, the building with the rental has a balcony and a pool, while the condo doesn't.
For me, this has really never been a problem. I don't think of renting as throwing away your money. I lived in my first New York City apartment for 7 years, And then I moved to a second one in the same neighborhood of Astoria, Queens. And while it was great for us to ride out the pandemic, we also started to notice that prices were dropping significantly all over Manhattan. And we figured that now would be as good a time as any to try to get a deal.
More than 10,000 apartments were listed for rent in Manhattan in June of 2020, an increase of 85% according to a report by Miller Samuel and Douglas Elliman.
It's very rare that a couple, especially one with a dog, can find a steal on an apartment in Manhattan. We started to look around at all sorts of different options and settled in an apartment that cost us $2,950 a month, which I know is sticker shock for a lot of people who don't live in New York City, but it's dog friendly, has a working fireplace, an in-unit washer dryer, which is a very big deal here. But in a normal market, this apartment would probably cost us hundreds, if not $1,000 more than we are currently paying. And we locked into a 2-year lease in order to really guarantee keeping hold of the deal that we got during the pandemic.
Right now, renting can be a better deal than buying for a lot of people. But as more workers return to the office and interest rates start going back up, the market could change. We've already seen rents rising in 2021. Take a clear-eyed view of your finances and your 5-year plan to figure out which choice makes the most sense for you.